It was just past 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night when everything changed. I was on my laptop in the living room, and the house was pretty quiet except for the dryer. My wife Courtney was still awake, just waiting to fold that last load of laundry. Our two sons finally crashed after their normal bedtime routine of stories and cuddles and asking for water at least 15 times. So I was on the couch staring at this phrase on my screen, LLC formation. As usual, I had about 15 different tabs open, IRS pages, business blogs, a ton of YouTube videos, all about things you have to do before starting an LLC. Now, if you've been down that road, then you know setting up a business is a bunch of forms and there's state websites and federal. So I was at that point to where my mouse is just hovering over the submit button. I can't really remember why I was nervous, but I was nervous. You know, I guess it was kind of like I could start a new future just by pressing that button. I was thinking about all the risks and what was, you know, really at stake, making like a life change. And then I thought back to a night just like that one 2 years earlier. It was February, freezing outside. I was sitting on that same couch, but instead of registering for business, I was simply just, you know, figuring out what bills could wait to be paid. At the time, my wife's first car, a Chevy Cobalt, was making funny noises, and I was looking at our taxes, hoping the refund could be a little bit bigger so it could help, you know, fix the car up. And even though it was the middle of the winter, Courtney, I love her, she had this list of summer camps that she was thinking about signing the boys up for. And man, I'm sure some of you out there know those camps are expensive. I remember she looked up at me and she was like, Rich, do you really think we can afford the park camp for 2 weeks? And I'll tell you, this park camp is special. It's awesome. There's usually a wait list. It's that type of camp, you know, outdoors where it's a whole campus. They do tug of war, dress up like pirates. There's swimming. You know, it's way better than the kids just sitting around all day playing video games. So in that moment, having to say no to something that our kids would probably love because money was tight, it was just like a feeling that stuck with me. And it wasn't just missing out on summer camp, you know, it's missing out on everything, weekend trips, you know, family stuff because of work schedules. I think at the time, everything was just sort of, you know, piling up. Nobody likes worrying about money. And I wanted more for me and my family. So flash forward, there I was 2 years later, staring at my laptop, about to spend $750 on this LLC formation. You know, and back then that's money that could cover, you know, close to a month's worth of groceries. And I remember I just kept thinking to myself, was I really ready to do this, to take that next step? So I was thinking, and then remember I hear my name, Rich. And it was Courtney. She's standing in the doorway with a laundry basket on her hip. You coming to bed soon? She said. I just kind of threw my hands in the air and sighed. I'm trying to figure out this LLC stuff. I asked her, did you know you need something called a registered agent? And so I remember she sets the basket down, she walks over and she looks at the screen. Now, she doesn't know all about this business stuff, and neither did I at the time. So she just says, have you asked Bill for help? He just started that brewery bus business. Maybe he could help you with all of this. And that suggestion, it hit home because Bill, he's a good friend of mine, he jumps into things. And I mean that in the best way. Years ago, we were getting haircuts at the time, just talking about how many local breweries were popping up all over town. And then it seemed like the next day he's showing me pictures of a bus that he bought from Florida. Bill's like, I'm gonna turn it into a brewery tourism business. And I remember thinking that it was crazy just to go buy some bus and bring it to New York and start a business, but that's exactly what he did. Really, about a year later, he had a website, a cool phone number, sponsors, and he was taking people all over town checking out all these cool new breweries. And me, here I am, still sitting on my couch, reading way too many articles, trying to be 100% sure that, you know, I wouldn't make the wrong misstep and mess something up. So yeah, I took my wife's advice and I asked Bill about his business. It was a simple question. I was like, weren't you worried about failing? I mean, it's a huge commitment, the cost and the money just to try something like he did. And he just shrugged it off and said, yeah, but I figured if it flops, at least I tried, right? The worst thing is not trying at all. And so it's a conversation like that sort of stuck with me, right? Bill is not overthinking it. He just did it. And there I was ready to start my own official media business. And per usual, I was just over analyzing everything. So I'm sitting on the couch, Courtney's beside me, it's late at night, we both have to work early the next day. And she just reminds me, she's like, Rich, you've been talking about this since the kids were born. You're ready. We're here to support you. So you might be thinking that's when I just like click submit and we just head upstairs for a good night's sleep. But I told her what I had been thinking. I said, what if it doesn't work out? And she just reinforced kind of what Bill said. She said, then we learn and we try something else. But what if it works? And that's really all I needed to hear, I guess. It's like, it clicked for me. It's like, because what if it worked? So back to that screen, the one that said LLC, formation. The state filing fee, again, it was $750 and it included everything. And of course, it's not a fortune, but it's certainly like an amount of money to at least think about. And I remembered, what if it works? And so I did it. I filled in like whatever last part, I checked that box and I clicked submit. Confirmation page pops up and just like that, I was a business owner. Now that was over 4 years ago. And some of the other lessons I learned along the way are easy ones, like realizing I could deduct like, home office expenses. And now other lessons, of course, they weren't so easy. They were actually pretty painful. Like the time I forgot to pay a $12 state fee and I got penalized over $250. So thanks a lot, New York State. But the real game changer, it came when I figured out the tax implications of my LLC. My first $1,000 day in earnings felt completely like a dream. And my first $10,000 month, it felt life-changing. And I remember the day my accountant, Jeff, he sat me down and talked about how I needed to change my tax status. He said, it's time to switch it to an S-Corp. And I remember just thinking like, oh, all of this sounds way too complicated. But then he broke it down like this. Right now, all of your profit is taxed as self-employment income. But if you switch to an S-Corp, you can pay yourself this reasonable salary and then take the rest as distributions that aren't hit with self-employment tax. This was mind-blowing for me. I remember when I first told Courtney about the S-Corp election and how it worked, she asked like, is this even legal? And I just laughed because I was learning. I'm like, this is completely legal. It's how business owners play by the rules, but they play smart. And yeah, that one switch saved us thousands of dollars in taxes over the past few years. Of course, there is a learning curve. We messed up a bunch and had our stumbles along the way. Like I remember the first time I went outside the studio, I held a retirement presentation at a local banquet, and a total of 3 people showed up. I had a projector, I was wearing a suit, and my coworker Corey was there. He's like, Rich, just relax. You're not pitching a Shark Tank here. So yeah, it's like little stories like that where I realize, becoming a professional, owning your own business, it doesn't mean being perfect. It means being authentic, like being yourself. And sometimes it means learning to laugh at yourself along the way when you mess up. And life has drastically changed for me. I retired from classroom teaching. I started this new tax incentive business that helps other business owners find tax credits and deductions. I haven't even made a video about that yet. And really that's because I'm just too busy making videos on YouTube like this one, hopefully helping business owners like yourself or self-employed individuals. And if that's you, then one of the best benefits is just kind of being in control of your own schedule, right? For me, it means, getting the kids on the bus in the morning, which I wouldn't have been able to do. Showing up in the middle of the day to one of those like recitals or luncheons that the kids have when they're young. Things like that really weren't possible for me before. In fact, just last week, Courtney and I had this date night and we're sitting across from each other. It's cold where we're at now, a little heater above us. And she said something that reminded me that everything I was talking about in this video, it kind of made it worth it. She said, I've noticed you're actually here now. And not just physically, around the house, but, mentally too. You're a lot more present. And I said, yeah, well, it's great not having to bring home papers to grade or lesson plans to worry about, but it's not like I'm not working full time or more right now. It's just, I'm loving what I'm doing. And apparently it shows. Oh, and one other really cool thing. A few months ago, my oldest son, he's 6 years old right now. He walked into this office and he's like, Daddy, I want to start my YouTube channel. And I was in the middle of something, but I pulled him on my lap and I was like, yeah, what kind of channel? He said a Lego channel where I build stuff and you make the video go really, really fast. So I put it together and it looks cool. And my heart, it grew like 3 sizes, right? Because just think back to when I was in that living room on the couch, staring at my laptop, hesitating before clicking submit. And now here I was with my 6-year-old who's already thinking about building something of his own for himself. And then just last week, in fact, a friend of mine, Jake, he pulls me aside and he shows me this expansion idea on his phone he's been working on for his sports league business. He just asked me, he's like, Rich, have I showed you these designs I've been playing around with? It's kind of for this like cool clubhouse expansion. And of course, his business is on top of his full-time job, which just so happens to be a teacher too. And I love when he brings this stuff up to me. I just smiled remembering all those conversations that I had, with Bill about how he had jumped in and went for it. And now I'm the one giving the advice on how to go for it and just jump in. In fact, some of you know this, even my wife Courtney's caught the entrepreneurial bug. She started her own aesthetics business, which is growing and scaling so much the past 18 months. I couldn't be more proud of her. So if you're ready to start your LLC, I'm going to put together a little checklist on the screen right now. First, file your paperwork, right? And then it's separate paperwork, but get your EIN. And then it's always a good idea to open up that business bank account. I talked about it earlier in this video, but pick your tax structure wisely. And no matter what, just keep good records. But most importantly, just start. Because true success isn't just the numbers in your bank account. I mean, it's that moment when your kid looks at you with pride and says, Daddy, I want to start a business like you. And it's about being able to be there for the moments that matter in your life. For me, it's teaching my children, that it's okay to take calculated risks. And sometimes it's about sitting on that couch with your heart beating fast and your palms sweaty, knowing that when you click submit, you're not just starting a business, you're changing your whole family's story. And that's worth more than any tax deduction. Thanks for watching.